All right, you guys. Hey, welcome back to another episode of Taryn Swears, and this one's gonna be good. I can't wait for you guys to meet Caitlin because we have a really fun story about how we met. But before we get into all that, just so you kind of get all the, let's get the fluffy stuff out of the way, so you can understand her credentials and why I wanted to bring her on. Caitlin's going to talk to us about strength training for women and the importance of it as we get older. And Caitlin has a phenomenal background, so much so that I am going to read off all of her credentials because they are so profound that you guys need to hear them. But she is an OPEX coach, CrossFit level 1, and weightlifting. She's got the AE core stability, aerobics capacity certification, and NCI nutrition, hormones, and mindset certification. So she's got an abundance of wealth, or yeah, let's do that, in health, and understanding, all elements of women's physical bodies and the evolution of them. So she's a transplant to the Idaho area from Arizona. She's got 2 boys and an amazing husband. We bond so much over Britney Spears. She's a big Britney Spears fan. I don't know about maybe the current, are we like talking like the original Britney?
I can barely look at it now, but poor girl, she's clearly needs some help. But yes, I have a giant poster of her back in her glory days in my garage gym. So yes, golden era Britney.
Oh my God. And it is a bomb picture. You guys, it wouldn't take you much. So you're going to have to go find Caitlin on Instagram. I'll make sure you have her handle, but it's feed underscore the underscore machine. So Caitlin owns Feed the Machine, and you're going to learn a lot about that. But it's fun because Caitlin and I met almost a little over a year ago. I think it was June of 2022.
Yep.
And our friend Melissa, who, just a little backstory, Melissa and I were had a mutual friend, a gal that I went to college with. Her name's Lindsay, and Melissa was going to be moving out to Idaho. She'd heard that I had moved to Eagle, and she's like, we call her our social coordinator. We've got a text thread of girlfriends that are all here now, or transplants from either, you're in Arizona, Caitlin, and then we have California, Washington, and that's right. That's it, right? I think those are the states that
Yeah,
we.
I guess Kristen, yeah.
Now
That,
she's in Florida, but
yeah.
she's still one of us. But we all came together because of Melissa, and you guys met at the gym. So you obviously were at the CrossFit gym here locally, and then you guys just started chit-chatting, and you came to the pool, and I see this woman walk in this beautiful green bikini, and I was like, holy shit, I have some work to do. Phenomenal figure. And so immediately I was intimidated because I'm like, dude, I thought I was in good shape. And I'm like, holy, I mean, just like your abs were like on fire. It was just, I mean, beautiful physique. And you guys, if you're watching on YouTube, you can see it in her face. I mean, you could just tell, and you'll go see her Instagram and you'll tell as well. But the moment she opened up her mouth, the moment I knew right then and there that we were going to be great friends, because she's just got such a love and passion for people, and she's funny, and we can talk about just about anything. I mean, we've gone on walks and we've covered everything from politics to Britney Spears and everything in between, and kids and business and all that good stuff. So I'm really excited for you guys to get to know Caitlin. And Caitlin, thank you for being willing to come on here and let you talk about your expertise and have everyone else hear from you. So with that, hello. Finally, I'm going to quit yapping and I'm going to let you come on. But thanks for coming on and chatting all things strength training and, of course, nutrition stuff.
Oh my gosh, thank you. Wow, that intro made me blush. I thought the same thing about you at the pool, by the way. I was like, dang, she's a bombshell. Wait, you have 4 kids? So yes, feelings were mutual, but I am glad that we've become such good friends, and it feels good to surround myself with people with the same core values in terms of family and business, and the type of businesses we run all are kind of overlapping in the health and fitness space. So it's just easy to connect, easy to be friends with you.
Oh, thanks. Well, and that's one thing too cool about our group of friends in this particular thread I was talking about. And if you guys haven't, our friend Brianna had us all on her podcast, Practice Brave. And was it Practice Brave?
Yeah.
Yes. And
Yeah.
her podcast is really around postpartum athleticism, but she had us on for a two-part series, myself, Caitlin, and Melissa, and our friend Kristen, and talking about all like moving as adults and starting out and over basically in a new state and meeting new friends. But the cool part about all of us is that, like Caitlin said, we are all in the same industry. We are all either fitness trainers or nutrition coaches, nutritionists, or some sort of wellness. And we all really truly rally each other. We collaborate, we share ideas, we offer feedback, and really genuinely want each other to win. So I love that so much because we just each have a different angle. So, we're not like competing for the same people. And even if we were, none of that, like, I don't feel like there's any of that between us. And I don't feel like there's any of that in Idaho, to be honest. Like I've never felt like I had to compete with somebody and I couldn't, like, I'd keep all my cards close to my vest. I feel like, we can be open and talk and collaborate. And that's one of the best things that I
Oh,
found.
I agree. And it's a mark of true friendship when you can be vulnerable, and you've helped me so much in business and bouncing ideas off, especially on the back end and growing. Cause I feel I'm a very strong trainer, but on the business side, it's not that I can't do it. I just am not as passionate as I am about the training side. So you are such a great resource for that too, and phenomenal coach. So I appreciate all of your advice and wisdom.
Oh, thank you. Well, and now it's your turn to share your advice and wisdom. And I really wanted you on here because, we've talked a lot about strength training and, being in awe of your figure and just the strength that you exude alone, not only physically, but also just as a confidence wise, just your demeanor when you walk into a room. And, you could always tell in somebody when they walk into a space how they carry themselves generally is a direct reflection of their health. And, you have that hands down. But I think a lot of women hopefully are starting to kind of come to terms and see more in the light that strength training is such a priority as we get older. And so, because that's like your area of expertise as a phenomenal trainer that you are, can you kind of bring light to why? I think, like, I mean, I say it all the time. I've talked about it actually. I talked more about macros today on Instagram, but I always am weaving in the component about strength training because that's where I've really shifted my training regimen, is that I focus on prioritizing strength versus cardio. And not to say cardio is bad, but can you kind of like just give it to like us really basics as to why the strength training, and eventually we'll get into some, other things that they can be doing, and home equipment type stuff, if they are doing it at home.
Absolutely. So I have so many thoughts and philosophies when it comes to strength training, particularly women. So I'm 36 years old now. I've got two kids. I used to dabble in a little bit of competitive CrossFit for many years. I attribute CrossFit to really what launched my personal fitness journey. Okay. I had never done, and I think a lot of women, like my age and a little bit older, for the most part, unless you were a collegiate athlete, did not get experience in the weight room.
Mm-hmm.
We were not taught, nor was it socially acceptable per se, to be on the weight side of the gym. Because I even remember, even, in high school or even in college, I never really knew what to do with the dumbbells, with the cable machines. I would just go on the elliptical or the Stairmaster or someplace quote unquote safe where I didn't feel stupid. I felt like I couldn't mess up. Not many people were looking at me. If I did go over to the weights, I mean, I knew, I was like, okay, I don't know, bicep curls and some shoulder raises, and I don't really know what else to do. And I felt intimidated. So I'd do a few sets. If someone was using the weight that I wanted, I'd be like, oh, well, I guess I can't do it. And I would just leave. So I couldn't really gain any traction there. And what I see now is the information is so readily available now for weight training. And you have seen such a shift now where it is mainstream for women to be lifting. It is also mainstream to see a fit muscular woman. That is messaging and images that are now accepted even by young girls. High school, I see high school girls in the gym now barbell back squatting. I wouldn't even know what to do at that age. So there is a shift in our culture, and the prevalence of information coming out that is verified study after study after study of the importance of weight training, especially for women. So now, Taryn, I know a lot of your messaging as of late, especially, involves, more mature women in their late 30s, 40s, 50s, coming up on menopause, or in menopause. And this is so critical. If you haven't been told already, hopefully this isn't news to anyone. As an aging woman, you need to be weightlifting. You need to be lifting heavy. And I'm not saying like you're going around and doing, a lunge with a curl with 8-pound dumbbells. You need to be lifting heavy enough to recruit the type 2 muscle fibers. So your fast twitch muscle fibers, which only are recruited when you're really lifting heavy and have max muscle motor unit. So your motor units in your muscles, contraction to recruit those type 2. The reason being is those type 2 fast twitch muscle fibers are the ones that atrophy the fastest as we age. Okay. So that's kind of like a hallmark. And I was actually just listening to, if you've not heard of him, I highly recommend, and I'm a huge fan, Dr. Peter Attia. He's got so much information on aging and staving off the quote unquote side effects of aging and making sure you have a quality life in kind of those marginal years of life. So when we're talking like 70 plus years old, because there are huge differences. I'm sure you guys know, you've seen people in their 70s and 80s where you're like, they're ageless. They just like keep going. And then there's people who cannot even get up off the sofa by themselves. Okay. And they need assistance. So when you think about those years of your life, what do you want them to look like? So as an aging woman, especially in menopause, you have a steep drop off of estrogen. So that bone mineral density is really important. Weightlifting can help offset that and maintain strong bones. Okay. There's just, and we can talk more about it, but there are just so many benefits to lifting. So that absolutely, if you are not doing it now, you need to start doing it. And if you have daughters and children and high schoolers, you need to get them lifting. Because I was actually just listening to, like I said, to that podcast that Peter did recently, Dr. Attia, and he was emphasizing that your genetic potential for bone density is in your 20s. So you need to be lifting and lifting heavy in those younger years to help set you up for a really good future of lifting. But like they say, the best time to plant a tree was 20 years ago. The next best time is today. So it's never too late. It's never too late. You can always have benefits.
And it's so true. And I think that when you talked about the intimidation of the weight room, I still think that exists today for a lot of women that aren't familiar with what to do. They walk in, they're like, okay, well, I want to strength train. And they might go to YouTube, or they might pick up, they might look at the machines and try and dabble on something like that. And we'll get into, because I really want, like, if somebody was to go, okay, well, what should I do? What are like the best things to do to start? Because there's a lot of information out there. I mean, you can go Google like how to strength train for women probably over 40. I guarantee if you Googled that, you'd be able to find that. But I want to make sure they connect with you. And I know you've got offerings and things that you can get people started on doing that. But it's really just kind of like settling your nerves when you walk into a gym. Because here's the deal, everybody is so self-centered when they're in the gym. I mean, and not in a bad way. They're in there for themselves. They are short on time. They have got something to do after. They had something to do before. They have 900 things going on in their brain. The last thing these people are doing is sitting there staring at you, wondering what the hell you're doing in the weight room as a woman. Like, nobody gives a shit. Like, if anything, like, you're going to get high-fived by a dude for being in there because they're pumped to see other women get into the gym and start strength training, because there's nothing more badass than seeing a female, even, you know, starting in her 20s, you know, they might be like looking and, you know, like winking at them, but their 20s. And even like, I love seeing women in their 50s and 60s throwing down weights. And, you know, working at F45, I'm mostly in there, and we've got all ages in there, and I love seeing them pick up heavier weights than they did maybe the week before, even 4 weeks ago, you know. But everybody has to start somewhere. So dismantling the whole fear and expectation that everyone's going to stare at you and wonder why the hell you're now in the weight room when you really shouldn't. And, you know, it's funny, and that feeling, I don't feel like, never really goes away, because even when you and I met and we went to the YMCA, right, and you took me through an upper body workout, because I told you, I'm like, hey, I need you to push me, I want to get my pull-ups down. And you're like, okay, well, in order to do that, we're going to start throwing some weights around. And I was like, okay. And we walked into the weight room, and there was a handful of women, but like, it was mostly dudes, like young dudes, right, and they were jacked, you know. And so there's a little bit of intimidation, but then the moment you kind of get your bearings and you're like, okay, you got your weights, and they start seeing what you're doing, like, you're one of them. You blend in, and again, nobody gives a shit. Unfortunately, half the people are taking selfies and videos of themselves, so they're not even cluing in to the fact that you're there and you're looking for the 20-pound dumbbell to curl with. Because I'm sure there's going to be excess 5s and 8s. Like, don't be touching those. But, you know, for somebody that's like, okay, I want to get into this, I now understand, you know, why it's important as an aging female, and especially as you're approaching menopause, and the drop in estrogen's gigantic, and you feel it, you know. But like, what are some of the benefits that somebody's going to do? Let's say somebody's listening and they're 44 years old, and they're like, okay, I think I'm strength training, but they're doing exactly what you just said, a lunge with an 8-pound curl, right? So they're doing these compound strength moves, which aren't bad, but we want them to focus on, I kind of call them bro lifts, because, you know, I feel like people get exactly what that means, but to translate that into the female perspective, like, kind of break down, like, what are the exact perks of somebody lifting heavier versus doing volume training with 5 to 8-pound weights?
Okay, because let me put a pin in that. I want to go back to your initial comments, because I feel like that cannot be overlooked. And it's one of the biggest barriers I see with keeping women from weightlifting is the intimidation factor. Okay. So let me just like backtrack and address that, because before you can even lift, you have to get yourself in there, right? Yep. And you have to feel like you know what you're doing. So here's what I recommend for that, because I'm going to move out of this. The sun is following me. Okay. Yeah, I'm getting blasted through my window here. All right. So that is a very valid concern. And it is something that it's easy to say, well, just get over it and just get in there. But if you're by yourself and you're not used to going to the gym, and you really don't have much experience with heavy weights, you're not just going to one day go in and do that. So how do you break through that barrier? First, I'm going to say, at some point, you do just have to go do it, and it will get better. So I will normalize and set the expectation that it will feel uncomfortable at first. And it's going to feel uncomfortable for a few reasons. It's going to feel uncomfortable because you may not know exactly how the machines work. In fact, I joined a gym here. Okay. I've been weightlifting consistently since 2014, maybe. Okay. So almost 10 years. I joined a gym that has a lot of really high-end specialized equipment that I have never used. I was aware of it, or I've seen it on videos or in pictures, but I don't know how to use it. Okay. And I felt intimidated. What did I do? I went in there. I saw the machines I wanted to use. I went up to the person at the front desk, and you can also grab a trainer who doesn't look busy at the time. And I said, hey, I'm new. I want to use this pendulum squat. Can you come show me how to set it up? Can you show me a few reps? And he did. And now I know forever, for all time, how to use it. And I can incorporate it into my routine. So number one, ask for help. Number two, reason people get intimidated, they don't know the flow. They don't know exactly where the equipment is. They kind of have an idea of what they want to do. I recommend if time is an issue, get there earlier, go on a day where you don't have a lot going on, just walk around, familiarize yourself with the flow. Every gym is different. Some equipment and setups are going to be intuitive. Some aren't. Like you're going to have, the leg press machine over here, and then you're going to have quad extensions way on the other side. So to help optimize your time and flow of your workouts, go in there, you don't have, just look, if you, even if you need to make like a note or a little diagram on your phone or a scrap of paper, and just get familiar. And I would do that every week. So let's say one day you look around and you look, all right, where are all the leg machines or leg related things? And then the next day is, where's all the shoulder things? Where do they keep the accessories for the cable machine? And that knowledge is power. Okay. So familiarizing yourself with more things is going to help down regulate that anxiety you have. The other thing, again, if you are not sure about your form, if you don't know what it feels like to be pushed, because that's another thing, is a lot of people have been lifting the same weights for like 3 years. So they'll do a goblet squat with a 20-pound dumbbell or kettlebell and just never venture outside that. You need to be able to progress that weight, because your body will adapt to that weight and you'll kind of stop getting results. So I recommend hiring a trainer. And if budget is an issue, you can communicate with them. Hey, here are my goals. I like to work with you for this month, and whatever makes sense to you, once a week, twice a week, whatever. And because I am a trainer. So if someone came up to me and said this, set the expectation up front, it would be great. Maybe not all trainers are on board with this. Then that means they're not a good fit for you. So you need to find someone who's really good at coaching and teaching, and you tell them, look, I'm new at this. Okay. I want to learn how to back squat. I want to learn how to deadlift. I want to learn how to bench press, or whatever movements you are most uncomfortable with. And I'm working with you. I need you to correct my form. I need you to properly progress me. I need you to show me how to rack a barbell, unrack a barbell, how to put the weights on, how to put the clips on. Show me where everything is. My goal is to leave you, be able to show up here confidently and work these into my fitness routine now. So I think people get a misconception that, they're like, oh my God, I'm going to get locked in with this trainer and, I have to pay thousands and thousands of dollars forever and all time. No, depending on where you go. And of course, what the arrangements look like, you could just agree, I am going to work with you for this month. These are, make a checklist. These are the things that I want to learn by the time I'm done with you. Take ownership of your session. Even one session, even if you're like, hey, for 1 hour, help me work on back squat. Show me how to do that. You also need to vet your trainers, make sure that they know what they're talking about. Word of mouth is great. Even if you've been hanging around for a gym for a long time, you can kind of watch them. You kind of get an idea of who's who, what kind of clientele they work with. You can overhear them giving cues. Are they your vibe? Okay, there's a huge trust factor. You need to make sure that they're your right vibe, because that is a very important relationship. You're devoting a lot of time, a lot of money, and vulnerability. So this person needs to be a good fit, and don't stop until you find a good fit. Yep. Okay, so those are some tips to help get the ball rolling, because you can't start your weightlifting journey if you can't even get in there. So those are the biggest things that I say, just invest. It is worth it. Walking around, getting lay of land, getting some professional help. And then you will finally feel like, okay, this is an option for me now. So I feel like it was important to say that up front. Then back to your question about the benefits. There are so many benefits to weightlifting, and it is one of They say, because obviously a lot of, we're not professional athletes. A lot of us are moms, we're married, we work, we don't have unlimited time to
Yep.
working out. And I get asked that question all the time. And it's kind of one that you posed was, how much emphasis do we put on cardio versus weightlifting? This is what I tell my clients. If you are short on time, I would always prioritize weightlifting first, especially for mature females.
Love it. Yep.
Always. Now that's not to say you can never do a cardio session if that's what you feel like. Of course you can. But if you're truly asking, that is my professional opinion is if you have 1 hour, 3 days a week, I would be hitting the weights. And then if you happen to have another hour free up, yeah, do some cardio because it is important to have a really healthy cardiovascular system. Again, in that podcast, they're talking about how important it is to have a high VO2 max going into old age. If you expect yourself to be able to still climb stairs at 75, you need to be absolutely crushing it right now and maintain that for as long as you can, because the drop off of VO2 max is really high. So your hormones as an aging female, okay, that hormone profile and all your sex hormones are on a decline, especially after menopause. You can help stave off the effects of that, obviously, by getting HRT or hormone replacement therapy with your doctor and figuring out what's right for you. But weightlifting will help that. It will help balance and keep those sex hormones as high as they can be without intervening. It is fabulous for tendons, ligaments, joints, bringing your joints through full. So you asked like what exercises. With clearance with a doctor, if you have injuries, I'm talking about like a generally healthy person that doesn't have any restrictions. You need to be bringing your joints through their full range of motion regularly, like weekly. So squats, if you can, and it may need some practice, get full depth. And by full depth, I would classify that as getting parallel, where your hip and your knee are parallel. If you can go even a little bit deeper, so that'd be like CrossFit standards.
Yeah. No rep.
Yeah, no rep. That's right. That would be great too. So again, you're putting your hip in extreme flexion, you're putting your knees in flexion, and then being able to extend that. And then the core strength also for being in that position. And then if you do it loaded, that's extra bonus. And what I mean by loaded is underweight. So same thing with your shoulders. Okay. A lot of people as we age, our rotator cuffs start to weaken. You see a lot of rotator cuff tears, injuries in older people. So strengthening the shoulder girdle, bringing your shoulder through full range of motion. Remember, it's a ball and socket. So you have a lot of different planes of motion you can bring the shoulders through. Regularly is really important, but I could go on and on if there's something specific you wanted to talk about. But weightlifting is going to improve over time. If you're doing it consistently, you're going to get increases in libido, which is always a bonus.
Yep.
Your confidence, your sleep should improve, your overall energy should improve, your hormone profile will improve, your it's oh my gosh, we just watched Legally Blonde the other night because it's on Netflix. So remember the quote where she's like, she works out and what is it like? Happy people don't shoot their husbands or whatever. It gives you endorphins.
Yes. Yeah.
Make you happy. And happy people don't shoot their husbands. I will say when I am feeling stressed, or I am, we'll say, irritated with my husband. Never happens, right? Doesn't happen to anyone.
Right. No.
Usually, if I just need to take a load off or I'm really hyped or anxious about something, I'll just be like, you know what? Let's just pop out to the gym a little bit. Let's get some good blood flow. And it really is such a nice relief, and it helps balance your mood quite a bit. Women have no mood issues, so I don't know why we need that. But If in case you do have a flare up in mood, it can help bring you back down to baseline.
Just a small little caveat there, right? We never are moody.
Yeah.
And just talking about that and elaborate a bit more on the hormone profile. I think a lot of us, especially that are still cycling, like are still having a menstrual cycle, that are in our mid 30s, I'm going to be 45 next week. So I'm still having a period. And, I'm like on the cusp of like, okay, when am I going to be truly in perimenopause? When cycles start to dissipate, they get longer or shorter or heavier or lighter. And just all different things. Like everyone has a different experience. There's not one size fits all when it comes to perimenopause and also going into menopause. But here's what I think is really, really important for women to understand. I think that those of us that are preparing for menopause have this, like, well, not me, but I think a lot of women outside of our industry are assume menopause is going to suck. Like they assume it is going to be miserable and they're going to take anything and everything they can get from their doctor to mask it. And I really want to encourage that strength training coupled with a proper diet. And when I say proper diet, because you're active and you're strength training, it is so imperative for you to understand your macros and how those are going to align with your strength training. Like, why go waste the time and the effort going to the gym? And we talked about this initially, like going to the gym and spending that time and energy and then not knowing what to do to refuel and replenish your body nutritionally. But when you do understand those two variables and how they are really synergistic and how they naturally fit together, your hormones and the patterns that come with your menstrual cycle, whether you have extreme PMS symptoms or not, like a lot of people get severe cramping, headaches, just way low energy. A lot of that can be managed when you are strength training, but also when you double down and you eat adequate amounts of protein to complement your strength training, because you want to build the muscle. Protein is the building block for that muscle growth. And then having a good balance of healthy fats is also going to help support and mitigate some of your PMS symptoms if you have them. I know a lot of women get migraines as they get older, especially around their cycle. And I've been able to kind of play and tweak some macros with my clients, especially around their cycle. That's made a massive change. And then carbohydrates, right? And I want to have you talk about carbohydrates here in a little bit too, because I think there's such a misconception about carbs. And a lot of people, now that I've got my macro course that opens here in a couple of weeks. And a lot of women I'm having preemptive conversations with, they're like, well, tell me about carbs. Like I've been low carb for X amount of time. And you're just like, those of us are like that eat carbs, like, why would you like omit that out of your diet? Because they fucking rock. Like they're good and you shouldn't be scared of them. But also understanding how they can be such a complement to the whole process. That's just, I really just can't emphasize enough how much understanding that now, right? Like even as early as your 20s, as you said that that's like when we start to kind of plant the seed for our joints and our bone health and all that kind of stuff. And then going into your 30s and 40s. And if you are early hit menopause, like it doesn't have to be something to suck. I've got clients that have transitioned to menopause and like had very little symptoms. They didn't have the hot flashes. They didn't feel miserable. They weren't all over the place hormonally and mood wise. Fine, certain shit pissed them off, but that's normal, right? Like, you could cross the street and you get pissed off because someone, it doesn't have to be your hormones, right? They might play a role, but just the complement of food and diet is so imperative to that phase, regardless. I mean, every phase of your life, honestly, but to that phase, because obviously with strength training, your goal is not only to take advantage of those perks, but also as you get older, having a lower body fat percentage is really going to support that longevity. Like you said, when you're in your 70s and 80s, what do you want that life to look like for you? And if you're right now carrying a high profile of body fat percentage because all you're doing is cardio, then that lifestyle when you're in your 70s and 80s is going to be really hard. Getting up those stairs is going to be really difficult because you're not necessarily improving your cardiovascular health by slamming down on the elliptical, right? Or going for a walk, which those are fantastic things to do. Movement is amazing, but like maximize those efforts, right? Maximize the time that you're going to put in. So I love that you said, if you're going to prioritize something, you're short on time, weight train, hit the weights. Doesn't have to take long, but it has to be intentional. So I want to kind of segue into a ideal programming time, because I know you can't just give a general program. But I did want to add, there's a lot of women that can't get to the gym, whether they've got babies at home, there's no daycare at the gym. What does that look like? And what would your recommendation be for somebody that is working out at home and again, doesn't know what the hell to do? Like, okay, well, yeah, my husband's got some heavy weights, but I can't curl 30 pounds or 20 pounds yet. But how do I get myself there? And how do I even know what to do and where to start? Aside from them going, hey, Caitlin, I want you to put an online program together for me because I know you do that. But if someone just needs some tips, can you kind of share like what your best at home stuff might be?
Yeah, absolutely. So there is so much, and that's probably one of my other messaging on my platform, and just my general philosophy is you can always do something. So even if you have no weight, I mean, my gosh, quarantine and COVID approved that people were making squat racks from like Home Depot buckets and, curling jugs of milk and whatever. So, you do not need a lot. So your question, it's a simple question, but it always is followed with it depends. So it depends on this person's fitness background. But let's just say they are, have kids at home. They haven't really done a lot of stuff over the last few years, or nothing consistently really. So again, I highly recommend follow some sort of structured programming. And that's going to do a few things for you. So whether that's you buy programming from someone you really have grown to like and trust on Instagram. Oh, my cat is like jumping up and knocking my blinds over here. Exposing the sun.
Oh,
So yeah, so whether you buy a program from someone you like, trust, and know, whether you get someone to write one for you, whether you buy a video. I know when I had my kids, they were babies and I couldn't get to the gym. I actually did the remember Insanity with Sean T.
yeah. I mean, you're talking to like the Beachbody OG over
Oh,
here.
that's right. Yeah, of course you know
Yes.
Sean T.
Yes.
So
I mean,
I
Johnny
actually
Horton was like my guy. He was my homie. That's, who I kicked it with as much as I could.
so I did Insanity videos and I loved them and they were great. So you start somewhere. My biggest advice is do something that you like, because if you like it, means you're going to be more inclined to do it. We are all tired as moms, as busy professionals, running a family. There are days, probably more often than not, where you could work out, but then you have this thought, or I do at least, I'm just assuming other people feel like this too, where I'm like, why would I want to further exhaust myself right now when I know I have so much more to get through on my day, or I know I'm going to have a late night with kids' sports or whatever. So that is where making sure you plug into a program, a routine, a style of working out that you like.
Mm-hmm.
The weightlifting stuff, I would say, could even be secondary, maybe even tertiary. But if you are not currently moving regularly, just do something to get you moving, even if it's bar class, even if it's, like I said, Insanity video, I'm sure you can still get them off eBay, or I don't even know how they're now, but, or plug into your like Apple Fitness, or I know Peloton has stuff now. A lot of people have Peloton at home, but honor yourself by carving out that time for yourself. I also highly recommend time blocking. Okay. So carving out that 60-minute, maybe you don't have 60 minutes, maybe it's 40, whatever it is, carve that out, put it in your Google Calendar, whatever calendar system you use. And that is your workout time. You don't plan play dates around it. You don't plan meetups with friends around it. You do not work during that time. You don't run errands during that time. That is only your workout time, and you must prioritize that. So my husband and I have a general feeling around our workout times where for us, it's not a luxury. It's not oh, you get your time or I get my time. No, we see our workout times as partners as basic maintenance. So it is just as important as if he were to go get the oil changed on the car, or I were, to unload the dishwasher, or go to the grocery store to get errands. There are things that have to be done, and there are baseline expectations. And I think if you change your mindset around working out, it's basic body maintenance. It's not selfish. It is not a luxury. It is a bare minimum requirement to function for yourself, for your family, for your future, and your future family. We all have people either in our own family, or we know people where the elder members of the family are not in good health. Mm-hmm. And we have so much more agency over that than we realize. There's a lot we can be doing now.
Yeah.
So that was kind of a long, very long answer to your question, but it is, do whatever sounds fun and sustainable to you at the moment. And if your husband or whoever, like you gave the example, has heavy workout equipment, you can work that in. Find a program that has, and also find a program, not that you can't write your own, but oftentimes, and I outsource, not currently, but I have outsourced my programming before, because we all have biases, right?
Yep.
If you
sure.
like to do curls, you're going to do curls all day.
Yeah.
You hate to do squats. Guess what? You're not going to do all day? Squats. Okay. So if you have someone who's unbiased, who can give you a balanced program, that will help eliminate your own tendencies to avoid certain things that need to be done, because we need a balanced physique and balanced musculature. So if I left anything out, let me know, but it's not as straightforward of an answer as I wish it
totally is. It totally is. But I love that you said a couple things there that I wanted to re-highlight is do something that will make you happy. And if it's, if you dread lifting up a weight and that just, gives you anxiety for whatever reason, like just do something to start moving. Because again, once you get those endorphins going, and once you start getting into the pattern and the routine, like you're naturally going to be incentivized probably to switch things up, because you're going to start getting bored of that thing. Like you might kind of get bored of doing insanity, and you might decide you want to do something else. And you can go just about anywhere with this device and Google something or an app to download. I mean, like you said, Peloton, Nike, a lot of you guys, those that have Apple Watches, there's so many things. You go to YouTube and find a heap. But when you talk about a trainer that is unbiased to different programming, and that's what I loved about our time together when we went and worked out, is that you took what I said I wanted to focus on, what I had as a goal. I wanted to get a certain amount of strict pull-ups stringed together. They're my biggest weakness. I hate doing them. I literally hate pull-ups, but I want to like them. I want to be good at them. And then of course it brought too much tension in my elbow, and it flared up some of my golfer's elbow. So I had to kind of peel back a little bit on it. But the programming you took me through was so good. And I want to tell you guys that, whether you are going to the gym and, obviously leverage the resources at the gym, but also like having somebody like Caitlin that can write a program for you that you can take into the gym or you can do at home. I mean, like, again, how many people are using these at the gym? Their program is probably in their ear, like they're doing something on their app. And I know that's what you do with your clients. You do in person, and you also do online training as well, meaning you write programs for people and you meet them virtually and meet them where they're at. And that's probably the biggest quality that you have, is that you meet the individual where they're at, whether they are a little bit more sophisticated in the gym and can maybe maneuver around some of the barbell training, maybe had some CrossFit experience or been an athlete, or the mom that is just so foreign to it all and needs to start with the very basics. And this is what I have available to me. And then I'm willing to add on more at my house. Like, but what do I need to get? that will be cost efficient, but also be progressive with me meeting towards my goals. So I wanted to reemphasize that. But the last thing I wanted to reemphasize is I think that the non-negotiable is that it is a basic maintenance requirement. I just actually shared something on Instagram that made so much that I've been saying for years, but I just loved how it was said, is that we don't have to feel guilty about the time away from our families to go work on ourselves and our physical selves, because most of us in our later life, in our middle-aged life, not always are going to work out for the vanity. Like, I'm not working out for a bikini. I'm not working out for a certain number on the scale, and I'm not working out necessarily right now to meet a certain body fat percentage. It doesn't mean anything to me right now, but it's the act of doing it because I've made it a priority. Yes, it's my profession, and part of my profession, but I love the feeling I get from doing it. But I also wanted to give the moms that validation that it's okay not to want to have your kids join you, like especially the little ones. Hopefully they can't hear me because my younger ones are home. I don't love it when I have my kids running around me when I'm working out. Like, some people
No
love,
one does.
some women say, I love it when my kids want to join me. And I'm like, are you fucking serious? You love it? I'm like, it makes the workout that much longer. And that, like, I love that they are watching. And that's another kind of parlay to the whole thing I wanted to make sure to emphasize. Your kids, especially girls, if you have girls, and boys, it's very much important. I have a natural passion now for youth, and learning the basic foundations to strength training and, of course, nutrition. But I've got a 17-year-old daughter, and I started in the gym at 14 with my dad. And my son is, super active. So I'm super passionate about them understanding why weight training should be a priority and why it really matters at their age. Not because they should look a certain way or have a six pack or fit into a size 2 pair of jeans. Like, that's not it at all. It's the health of it. And it's also setting the foundation for your future self, for your genetics, that as you get into your 20s are going to kind of make or break what you might be up against when you hit your 40s and your 50s and then your 70s and 80s. Like, if you don't start now. So, just kind of that, I had to reemphasize that I think so many women feel guilty going to the gym or taking their kids to daycare, or like validating that it's okay to not want them to run around and do it. And I didn't want that. So my husband and I, when we worked out at home, we'd get ourselves up at 4:30 and we would hit our home gym at 5 in the morning. And people are like, you're nuts. Why are you doing that? Because I don't want to work out when my kids are around. I just don't. I don't. They need to require something else of me at that time, and I can't give it to them if I'm thinking about my workout because I didn't get it done. And that still happens if I didn't get it done in time. Like, if I don't do it in the morning, I stress about it, and that's not worth the stress about a workout. I mean, like, because it's supposed to be an outlet. For me, it's an outlet. So I think then we can shift our mindset to that. It could be such a powerful and empowering thing as a female. Right?
I agree. I agree with you. And there are times, especially if you're listening and you do have young kids and you don't have the luxury of working out kid-free, because I didn't for a large period of my parenting. My kids were toddlers or whatever. And because of my husband's crazy work schedule, like, I didn't have, I didn't have a home gym at the time. So I had to leave to go to the gym. They were too young to leave alone. Matt had already left for the day for work or was working late. And my only choice was bringing them to the gym. And is it ideal? No. You could still do stuff. I can't tell you how many workouts I had cut short because either my kids were losing it. There was one instance, actually, I was at the CrossFit gym. They had like a little room that the kids could hang in, but my kids were young. So they'd always be running in, running out. And I was doing double unders. Okay. I was jump roping. And then my youngest comes up, he's a toddler, and he's like, Mom, my tummy hurts. And he's kind of inching closer. And I'm worried I'm going to whip him with the rope. And I'm like, Andy, back up. And I'm not even listening to what he's saying. And he's like, my tummy hurts. And I keep jump roping. So I'm like, I'm not going to be interrupted. And 5 seconds later, bleh, projectile vomit all over the CrossFit gym floor. I was working out with another girl and she was like, oh, holy shit. And I'm like, I guess my workout's over. So not only did I not get to finish my workout, I had to clean up all this puke, shuttle my kids out. I have videos of me like push pressing 155 pounds above my head for multiple reps. And my son's come out, mom, 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 mom. And I have it on video. I go, Luke, I have 155 pounds over my head. Can you wait a minute? And it's just, I look back now and I smile and laugh because when you're in it, it is just so consuming and you're so frustrated and you just feel like you get no you time. Everything's interrupted. I look back, that was just such a short blip on the radar. And I'm just like, you know what? Pat myself on the back. I didn't give up. I still showed up, even though I had to pack all their freaking snacks and I had to, they whined about going. I'm shoving them in car seats and I'm shoving their feet in their little shoes. And, you know, we go there and they're complaining and they're interrupting and they're knocking chalk buckets over. And you know what? I still did the best I could. I didn't show up every day. My workouts are much better now, uninterrupted now that they're older. I can leave them now. It's just, I'm telling you, moms, don't give up. It's not perfect. We've all been there. Just do what you can.
Yep, 100%. You know, instead of using our kids as the excuse not to, use them as the reason to do it.
Yeah, absolutely. Because you're going to thank yourself for putting that habit in early.
Yeah. Yeah, absolutely. And showing them that there is nothing wrong with you prioritizing your health. And if that means that you're separated from them for 30, 40 minutes because you're time blocking, you're making the most of the time, right? And if you get cut short, it gets cut short. But your kids are not going to blame you and they're not going to feel disowned or abandoned because you went and worked out for an hour. Even if that means you leave the house and you leave them with your spouse, you find a babysitter, if they've got childcare, there's always options and there's always ways. So, I mean, we could beat that like a dead horse, and I'm sure we did. Uh, anyways, I always like to end with having something that people can take away, which they are going to walk away with a ton of shit. I think just a ton of motivation and also ideas, which can also be really overwhelming and paralyzing, right? Like, okay, I really want to start and I don't know what to do. So if you had 3 things that somebody listening that, let's just say that they are fairly new, like they're not brand new, never seen a weight, never picked one up, but wants to get started with strength training, what are the 3 things that you would recommend for them to do the moment they stop listening here?
Oh gosh, good question. Okay. If the intimidation or the form or the technique is a barrier for like you want to work out, but you are paralyzed because of those factors, invest in help. It will cost you money, but it is worth it. It will free you up for the rest of your life to weight train. All you need to know is the basic skills, and then you can improve from there. So number 1 would be invest in help if you feel like that is what's keeping you from moving forward. Number 2, invest in a program. Okay. So a lot of, unfortunately, a lot of these gyms and boutique gyms and hit gyms and stuff like that, they pride themselves on having a huge amount of variety, and you show up, you do something different every day, which is really fun. And I love it. And there's a time and place for it. But for strength training, you need to accept that you will be doing the same kinds of movements. Well, literally for the rest of your life. You will be squatting forever or doing some sort of horizontal press or some sort of deadlift or hip hinging motion forever. When you truly are trying to develop strength or hypertrophy, it's going to be a lot of repetition. So number 2 would be invest in a program, and don't be surprised if you're seeing the same thing week to week, session after session. You've got to give yourself a chance to progress, to add weight, to get better at the lifting and technique. Number 3, I would say consistency. You're going to get sick. You're going to go on vacation. Your kids are going to get sick. You're going to have a week where shit explodes at work and you just literally cannot get away. You just pick up where you left off. The second you have a chance to get back on it, you get back on it. You will have a week or more. What if a family member gets sick? You just do what you can and have mini workouts. I always say do this for myself. I will write or store, or if I see something interesting, make sure I have workouts that I can do in 30 minutes. Because some days I only have 30 minutes. So
Mhm.
I just have them stored in my phone and I'm like, oh, damn, I only have 30 minutes. Well, I'm just going to do this today, even though I'm not doing my program. And that'll keep the habit going. So those would probably be the top three things I would say to get some momentum for you.
I love that. Well, and I'll say the bonus one because you had said it, but time blocking. I think if you're a mom and you know that, who knows what is going to be unveiled when your kids come home from school or just even during the day if you run an online business or you work full time, time block. Like, don't allow it to interfere. Like, have it be something that's static on your schedule that you don't, that's a non-negotiable. And sometimes that means you have to put your ass to bed an hour early so you can get up early and do it before the household wakes up. I get so like, I get it. Not everyone's a morning person. And I'm not a morning person. I don't jump out of bed at 4:30 and be like, I am so stoked to be up right now. Like, like I hate it. I hate it when the alarm goes off. I've been doing this since even before Tony and I got married. We would get up and go to the gym before. So we instilled these habits really early on, but even more so when we had kids to know, you know what? It's not an option for me to work out when they're awake because when they're awake, they need me and something's going to change and I'm going to be moody and cranky if I don't get it in. And that's no way for me to parent them or be as a parent. So time block. Set it on your schedule, non-negotiable, no play dates, no work calls, no anything during that time. That is your time because that is the time that you work on yourself from a maintenance perspective. So this was awesome. I love that you were willing to come on and share. And of course, having one of my girlfriends on here is just makes it that much more special. So Caitlin, thank you. I'm going to make sure that we have in our show notes too, how they can get a hold of you, where they can find you on Instagram, and especially if they want to work with you, what would be the best way for them to reach out through your Instagram or your website?
Yeah, Instagram's great, or you can shoot me an email. My website is, we are building it over the next few weeks here. So yeah, that'd probably be the best way. We can always set up a phone call and chat about what would be a good fit for you.
Yeah, because you do work with women all over, not just locally here in our little Idaho area, but you do work with clients outside, right?
Yeah, you don't have to be local. Yep.
Okay. And then I'm also going to reference that podcast because I know that sounds like such a great podcast for people to hear and just having those extra resources and influences to just validate what we were talking about here today. And then, that just pops up other things that are going to come up in your podcast recommendations just to kind of lament that this is a lifestyle choice. This is like basically as you get older, in my opinion, this is a non-negotiable. Being active, being strong strong is being a non-negotiable. I mean, hands down, you never know what you're going to be faced. You got to think like if something came like hell or high water that affected your children, like you want to be strong enough to defend them. You want to be strong enough to lift that fucking car off of them if you have to. Like, I know that's morbid, but like that's the kind of stuff that I think about why being strong is so important because I am super passionate that nothing will affect my children if I'm there, right? Like I will be as strong and adrenaline will kick in, but just having the bone density and the strength is just, it's so empowering. I mean, it's just, we can't say enough great things about it. So anyways, we've gone on long enough. Caitlin, it's been a blast. So thank you for being on here. So we'll have this up and loaded and we'd love to hear from you guys, what you took away from this podcast. Take a screenshot of this episode and share it on your social feeds. And you can tag both Caitlin and I, and we'd love to answer any questions that you guys have. So don't hesitate to reach out to either of us. But we look forward to bringing you guys more information and more content. So I hope you guys got a lot out of today. So thank you for being on here, Caitlin, and to you guys out there, thanks for listening. And until next time, have an awesome rest of your day. Bye.
Bye.